SGA just had an MVP level performance against the Phoenix Suns, how the Thunder showed their playoff formula, and Aaron Wiggins saved basketball.
You are Locked On Thunder, your daily Oklahoma City Thunder podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
On today's Locked On Thunder podcast, we're going to dive into the Oklahoma City Thunder getting a massive win over the Phoenix Suns on the road as SGA proved to be the league's MVP. Aaron Wiggins saved basketball and so much more brought to you by our good friends over at FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets for the winning of any $5 bet. That's $150 if your bet wins. Check it out today by visiting fanduel.com/lockedon to get started. Let's get it going. I'm your host, media member, and Inside the Thunder beat writer, Rylan Stiles. Follow me on Twitter at Rylan_Stiles. And until this show right here, we have been kind of dancing around like, hey, SGA could win MVP. SGA could be the MVP of this league. Yeah, in this game, he took it to the next level again. And this win, I think, really legitimizes his MVP case, his MVP race. I think he's been the leader in the clubhouse for the last 2 months, really, for SGA to be MVP. But this game, I think he goes from leader in the clubhouse on a more local scale where kind of we all understood what SGA was doing to a more national aspect of MVP talk of maybe even potentially jumping Jokic for the actual odds-on favorite. Right now, he's at 2 on the actual sports books from FanDuel. You know, he's at 2 for the award, but I think that in this game, you saw him take that next step. But this game overall, the Thunder got down by 13 points in the blink of an eye. And eventually, though, they wrestled that back to a 24-point lead, the Thunder did. Then they subsequently blew that 24-point lead, and there was 3 lead changes, 2 ties. The Thunder win by 8, but both sides exchanged these massive double-digit scoring runs. OKC survived a 36-8 scoring run from Phoenix in that third quarter. The crowd got into it. The ball was rimming out for OKC. The Suns looked comfortable, and it looked like the Thunder had just blown all that goodwill that they built up in that second quarter, in that third quarter, to grow that 24-point lead. But the Thunder survived that 36-8 scoring run by digging in defensively and making their defense turn into easy points and easy possessions, and then leaning on the MVP of the league. And in a star-driven league, that's the formula for success. In a star-driven league, those teams who can sit down defensively and get stops and then can get the ball to an MVP guy who can go make something happen. No matter the coverages you throw at him, no matter what the opposition looks like, SGA can go get bucket after bucket after bucket. And when a team has that kind of those two things coupled together, that's what separates them as like legitimately good contenders in the NBA, and the Thunder have that. And the Thunder were once again out-rebounded by the Suns, 61-49, and this was a big deal because you saw Jusuf Nurkic get 31 rebounds by himself. The Thunder continue to negate that rebounding disadvantage, and it plays into their hand. I've been saying this for the last month. Like, no team is going to be perfect. There's going to be holes and flaws on every team that you wish you could address. The key is turning those holes into advantages for you and not letting them define your team. And that's what the Thunder have done. They've turned rebounding from they lose the raw rebounding numbers. They get outboarded, fine. They turn that into you'd like to be a better rebounding team to this is actually an advantage because we're getting to play smaller. We're getting to be more versatile. We're going to get out and run and push the pace. We're going to get out and exploit you by switching 1 through 5 defensively and putting matchups on the floor where, it's tough to define who should be matched up with who on the defensive end for the opposition whenever the game goes into the half court. And, of course, you also have the MVP. But, whenever you look at the rebounding battle, of course, they lost at 61-49. The Suns turned the ball over 21 times, because every player on the floor could fly around. Every player on the floor has fast hands. Every player on the floor can trap and blitz off screens and do all those things where you're constantly out there and you are just throwing the ball left, right, and center. And the Thunder, in turn, protect the ball despite being a very young team. They only gave it away 5 times in this game. So you instantly make up that lack of rebounding by getting turnovers, which are more kind of demoralizing oftentimes. So the rebounding trade-off continues to be worth it. Sure, you get down in the rebounding battle, but you won fast break points 18-8. You won points in the paint 54-44. And the Suns did have more second chance points 18-7. But at the very worst case scenario, if you want to make it in the most simplest form of fast break points versus second chance points, and they pretty much were a wash. Okay, you wash that out, and who has the better player? Who has the better, the more depth? And in most cases, the answer to those two questions are going to be Oklahoma City. And I think that what was great for the Thunder too, as a team who's been shooting the ball very well this season, is to come in this playoff-like atmosphere against a good Phoenix team that doesn't have depth, but they do have like Kevin Durant and Bradley Beal. Devin Booker was out tonight, so that really took a blow for Phoenix, especially without their depth. But still, OKC shot 48% from the floor, but just 29% from three, and 73% at the free throw line. They typically shoot the ball a lot better than that. They typically shoot the ball a lot better, especially from three and at the free throw line, and they still found a way to win. And they never got discouraged or they never got out of whack whenever they were on the wrong side of those scoring runs. They just simply had to, take a beat and get settled back in defensively, and it all worked out in the end. So I don't really think that you can rattle this Thunder team. And the more and more you watch this Thunder team play, the more and more I truly believe that come April 1st, the Thunder aren't just going to magically forget how to play basketball in the month of April and just go and play completely different than how they play right now. Like I don't believe that. I mean, I do believe that in the playoffs, it's a different form of basketball, and you typically have to go through the battles and the wars to get to the ultimate goal. But in terms of like the first round, and in terms of like just playing playoff basketball, when the ball's tipped and there you are, I don't think that it's going to be anything out of the ordinary for this team, because at every point they've answered the call. And they've shown poise and uncommon maturity, and I think that will carry over to the playoffs. That's not to say that they're going to go on some magical NBA Finals championship run, but I also wouldn't pick against them in the first round. I also wouldn't just automatically assume that, hey, because they have no experience in the postseason, they're going to automatically struggle. I think that this team is really good, and you have given yourself a fighting chance to compete with anybody. Name me the series that you think the Thunder have no chance in. Sure, like every other team, there's better matchups than others, but there is no series where you go into it and say there's no way the Thunder have, not what it takes to win this, playoff series. They have no chance. Because when you look at it, you see the Thunder have the best player on the floor in the majority of these series. The Thunder have more depth than the opposition, which, is not always prevalent in the postseason because typically you're going to play 8 guys. But the Thunder are going to have the luxury to mix and match those 8 guys or 9 guys to get, the 8, 9, 10 guys who the kind of game or series requires and match the way that the other team plays. So with all that, and you have the 2 rising stars flanking the MVP and J-Dub and Chet. I just think that you give yourself a chance whenever you can win games like this, whenever you can handle long scoring runs, because at the end of the day, basketball is a game of runs, and you're going to have to, deliver some scoring runs and weather some scoring runs. And the Thunder continue to do that. The Thunder are the best team in the NBA winning percentage wise whenever they get down by double digit points. They lead the NBA in comeback wins, and they've proven time and time again that they have what it takes to get themselves out of the mud whenever that happens. They've also gotten a lot better at whenever they build big leads. Of course, they blew a big lead tonight, but that I'm just saying in the aggregate, in the actual overview of the season, they've gotten a lot better at maintaining big leads and keeping big leads. So they can do it both ways, and they can also just rely on SGA to be a superstar, which is what most teams in the NBA do. And then you can fall back on J-Dub being a awesome bucket getter for this team. And we'll talk more about all that coming up. But first, I want to tell you right now, our good friends over at FanDuel, go check them out today at FanDuel.com/lockedon. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. Go there right now because new customers get $150 in bonus bets. That's $150 in bonus bets right now if you win your $5 bet. That's your first $5 bet. You get $150 in bonus bets if you win it by going to FanDuel.com/lockedon. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. FanDuel.com/lockedon. You can bet on tonight's Thunder Lakers game. How do you think it will go? Right now, the Thunder are 1.5 point favorites on the road, second night of a back-to-back against the Lakers. You can go check that out today at FanDuel.com/lockedon. FanDuel.com/lockedon. We're back on the Locked On Thunder podcast, on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I think that SGA is the MVP of this league. He has 35 points, 8 rebounds, 9 assists, 3 steals, 3 blocks. He shot 55% from the floor, 2 for 4 from 3. He not only is one of the most efficient and best scorers in the NBA, just by himself in a vacuum, that's what he is. But he's the best two-way player that this league has seen in recent years, in the sense of like a guy who has to carry so much of the load offensively, but also has the motor to continue to play at a high level defensively and takes that end of the floor seriously. And you've seen him lead this Thunder team. They have talent, they have depth, they have rising stars. But you've seen him be an actual leader because guys follow the head of the snake. And when your MVP is out there putting in the dirty work defensively, diving for the loose balls, getting deflections, getting steals, contesting shots at the rim, getting back in transition. When your MVP of the league is doing that, much less the best player on your team, the other players will follow suit. It's just human nature. You're going to fall in line with that guy. You're going to match whatever that guy gives. Because your top of the food chain guy cannot be telling you, hey, we got to get back on defense. We got to play defense. We got to actually contest shots at the rim. We've got to fly out. We've got to fly around the court, dive on loose balls, save balls out of bounds. We got to do all these things. And then they're never down the floor. They're arguing with the officials. They're never contesting shots. Then they're getting olayed past them to the rim. Those two messagings cannot mix. It's really going to have to come down to what you see that leader do. And what you see from SGA is 100% effort on each end of the floor. What you see from SGA is an unbelievable, unmatched motor to do those two things, where he's being switched on to guys like Kevin Durant and not only holding his own, but getting stops. And he's doing whatever it takes to win. He comes back into this game a minute and a half earlier than he typically does because the Thunder needed him faster in that fourth quarter to settle things down. But he's an unreal scorer. We can talk all day about his footwork and all day about his balance and his ability to take on contact at the rim, score, his ability to pull up in the mid-range and capitalize on space and those step-back threes. We can talk all day about all that stuff. But the biggest aspect of SGA's game is his motor. You look around the league and nobody's doing it like SGA. Nobody is scoring that efficiently. Nobody is having that high usage rate. Nobody is leading his team to this many wins and having first place in the West and is playing defense this way. He's legitimately an all defensive threat. He's legitimately top 5 right now, I believe, at FanDuel for that Defensive Player of the Year award, while simultaneously being who I think should be the undisputed, clear-cut leader in the clubhouse for MVP. Because he's taken this team, which is the youngest team in basketball, if you only factor in playing time, he's taken this team to the number 1 seed in the West. And I think that is MVP case. I think that case will only grow and has a big swing, kind of aspect to it tonight. Tonight would be, like winning a swing state, right? Like if you can go out there, second night of a back-to-back in LA against the Lakers on national television, number one, a ton of people watch the Lakers every single night. That's obvious. But number two, it is on NBA TV, which does technically count as national television. If you can go out there, whenever everybody's going to watch LeBron and watch the Lakers and watch them, if you can go out there on the second night of back-to-back and win this game and put up 30 points and be the clear defining best player as you've been all season long, if you can do that and earn yourself just a smidgen of cushion on that first place in the West, in a razor-thin West, which you can build on whenever you take care of business, hopefully, against Portland, then you really start to see these days stack on top of themselves as Shai grows and gains separation in that MVP race. But right now, I think there are fantastic players around the NBA. I think that Jokic is fantastic. Luka, Tatum, I think that all those guys are great, and they should not be just silenced in the MVP conversation. But they're not doing what SGA is doing on both ends of the floor. They're not doing what SGA is doing for his roster. And I think that SGA is the MVP of this season, of this league, and especially for the Thunder, obviously. But Aaron Wiggins deserves a huge shout out for saving basketball. Like, look, this Thunder team sputtered twice in this game, and each time Wiggins was given a chance, and he came into the game and he excelled. He was excellent in this game. 7 points, 3 boards, 4 steals. 4 steals, a block, 3 for 6 from the floor, 22 minutes of action. Look, Aaron Wiggins has to play more. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Aaron Wiggins has to play more. He comes in and makes an impact right away, no matter how long it's been since he's last played, no matter the matchup, no matter the personnel on the floor, he makes an impact. He's a 3-level scorer. And even J-Dub said after the game that it's special. Everybody sees the saved basketball memes, but I think it's very hard to come into a game, not really know what's going on, and just be able to plug in right away and kind of do everything the team needs. That's what J-Dub said after this win against the Suns. Aaron Wiggins not only matches whatever the game dictates and whatever the game needs, but whenever you look at Wiggins as a basketball player, independent of the system, independent of the scheme, independent of draft positioning, independent of all that, Aaron Wiggins is shooting 66% at the rim. He's shooting 47% in the mid-range. He's shooting 42% on corner threes. He's shooting a jaw-dropping 52% on non-corner threes, which ranks in the 100th percentile. He's a masterful pick-and-roll defender, only letting up 0.7 points per possession. 0.7 points per possession also in isolation defensive attempts. He absolutely erases screens. Opponents are shooting like 33% coming off screens against him. And he defends in the 97th percentile at the rim. He simply has to play more. He has to be able to kind of fit more into this rotation and be given more opportunity, because every time you've given him that leash, every time you've given him that chance, he's taken it and ran with it. And this has been a constant theme of this show since he's been drafted. You know, me and Mavs draft, we're at Summer League talking about how good Wiggins is and is going to be, and how he's a diamond in the rough. And it's all came true, and now you've got to follow suit of like playing him a ton of minutes. I think that Aaron Wiggins is vital to what this Thunder team is doing. I also think that that Lu Dort is vital to what the Thunder team is doing. 3 for 7 from 3, 13 points, 5 rebounds, 3 steals, and a block. He was frustrating Kevin Durant. At times, Kevin Durant just outright pushed him and got an offensive foul just out of frustration with Lu Dort. But the key here for Lu Dort, when he shoots the ball well, this Thunder team is almost unbeatable. Like, if you're going to get Lu Dort shooting the ball well, I would pick the Thunder against any team. If Lu Dort shooting the ball well, because you know what he brings offensively, and you know what the other guys bring. You know what J-Dub, Chet, and SGA bring. And I think that when you look at Lu Dort and he's shooting 43% in this game from 3, you take that and it allowed this game to, at times, he hit big shots at times to stay in the game, hit big shot to extend the lead, and also what he did defensively, just flustering Kevin Durant. It won the game for the Thunder. because you look at how tight this game was and how thin the margin for error was because of these scoring runs. Now imagine if you let Kevin Durant get loose for like a huge Kevin Durant game. Like, because you were able to have a guy who could stop Kevin Durant, you were able to win this game. And Lu Dort, when he's shooting the ball well, is just a different threat for OKC. Coming up, let's talk J-Dub, let's talk Josh Giddey, and more, including your takeaways, all coming up. But first, I want to tell you right now, better good friends over at Prize Picks. Check out Prize Picks right now by going to prizepicks.com/LockedInNBA. That's prizepicks.com/LockedInNBA. And whenever you do, it's going to be a lot of fun. You can go and pick 2 to 6 players. And whenever you do, it's going to be very easy for you. You pick 2 to 6 players and you just project. They're going to have more or less than their Prize Pick projections. And so at Prize Picks, it's just you versus the projected numbers. You're never going to go up against, someone who knows way more than you. It's just you pick more or less than the projections, and then you sit back and watch and see how it all unfolds. However, right now, it's demon time at Prize Picks. You can win 100 times your money with as little as 4 correct picks, turning $10 into $1,000 with Demons and Goblins. It's the newest and most exciting way to play Prize Picks. Go there right now. Squares marked with red Demons or green Goblins give you different payouts. You can win 100 times your money with as little as 4 correct picks over there with Prize Picks during the Demons and Goblins time. Check it out today at prizepicks.com/LockedInNBA. That's prizepicks.com/LockedInNBA. And your first deposit match up to $100. We're back on the Lockdown Thunder podcast, on the Lockdown Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you so much for making us your first listen. We're here for you every single day, talking Thunder basketball. Subscribe on YouTube, like on YouTube, and also anywhere else you get your podcast from. J-Dub continues to be a key bucket getter, 22 points, 4 boards, 2 assists, 3 steals. You just have to marvel at how physical he gets at the rim, putting a body on guys and creating space to get easy buckets for OKC, especially in the fourth quarter, especially whenever the game is in the balance. He's able to take games over, and having that instinct, having that nature about him is what's going to make the difference and take the Thunder over the top eventually. Again, it's not like it's going to be like this magical NBA championship run this year in terms of that's the expectation. But eventually, this Thunder team will have championship expectations. And the way you get to a championship is by having SGA being the MVP guy in a star-driven league, but then also having him have a guy like J-Dub who can go in the big moments at the biggest stages of games and just absolutely take them over. And at that point, you've got to loosen up your coverage of SGA to give attention to J-Dub. And when you do that, SGA is going to kill you. Or if you keep your coverage tight on SGA, then you have a guy who can go kill you because of it. J-Dub's been awesome. Awesome. Let's talk Josh Giddey. Look, we've been talking about Josh Giddey all season long. You can go listen to a podcast aptly named the Josh Giddey Conversation if you want a more long-form situation. I think what this Josh Giddey game was, though, like this game was just as simple as control what you can control. Like the most frustrating part about the Josh Giddey experience to me is that, yes, the Thunder started slow. Yes, the Thunder got down 13. Yes, the Suns were not guarding him, and that was making life harder on the offense. But you can pound the problem whenever you're lackadaisical defensively, you're not engaged, and you're just getting blown by and cut past and not making any sort of resistance defensively. All Josh Giddey has to do, it's as simple as this: lock in and be active defensively as the 5th best defender on the floor. Lock in and be active defensively. And by nature of you being the 5th best player on the floor defensively, as long as you're ready to go get a loose ball, as long as you're ready to go deflect the ball in the passing lanes, as long as you're ready to stay in front of your guy or be ready to switch and jump into a switch aggressively and not allow the opponent to get space. As long as you do those things, it's going to be fine. Like, you're going to get stops. You're going to get steals. You're going to go out there and get easy buckets. He had a brilliant fast break that he ran with a 2-on-1 where he sells the shot and dumps it off to, I believe, J-Dub was trailing him. for the easy bucket. But it starts with something that is entirely dependent on Josh Giddey. I think that he could solve a lot of these issues just by playing defense the way he played in the second quarter, the way he played in the second half. Because you can't control if the ball's going to go in or not whenever you're left open from three. You can't control and force the opposition to guard you. But you can control how much effort you're willing to give defensively and how much effort you're willing to give on the glass. So you look at that slow start in the first quarter and how disastrous it was. But look how he turns it around just by making that easy switch. Not reinventing the wheel, not reinventing the roster, not reinventing their rotation, not reinventing what they've done with Josh Giddey at this point. Just by him choosing that you're going to be more engaged defensively. In the second quarter, gets a steal, gets an assist, gets 7 points, and only misses 2 shots. One was a 3. In the second half, 3 points, a rebound, a steal, a block, and an assist in 7 minutes. It took him 7 minutes to get all that stuff and get all those stats in the stat sheet. And he ran a brilliant 2-on-1 fast break because he was ready and had a steal poked out to him. Like, Josh Giddey can be at minimum serviceable by just controlling his effort level. Because when he gives effort defensively, he has the frame and size to be a quality defender, especially in the scheme of where the Thunder are asking you to be a quality defender as the 5th option defensively. He's good enough to do that. He's proven that he's good enough to do that whenever he locks in and shows up. And so if you lock in and show up from the start, it's going to lead to easier buckets right away. You're not going to dig as much of a hole. And then you can start to have games like you did against Toronto, like you did against Sacramento, Orlando. Sacramento, the box score is not clean, but we raved about Josh Giddey on the post-game show because it was deeper than the box score. You can go back and listen to that. But that is entirely in Josh Giddey's control, and that's without doing anything different or anything dramatic. You have to have a more consistent and routine effort level if you're Josh Giddey. It will make your life easier. It will make the team's life easier. And it will just make things aesthetically look better than they are right now. And so we can get into the weeds and have all the conversations you want, which we've already done and will continue to do. But for today, it's that simple. It's that simple. Isaiah Joe's spacing and activity defensively is huge. I think that he's extremely active defensively, staying in front of guys and keeping it attached to their hip defensively. Offensively, he goes 2 for 8 today from 3, but that threat of shooting, that threat of spacing unclogs the paint and allows other players to thrive off of it. 8 points, a rebound, and a block. Same thing with Gordon Hayward. Like, Gordon Hayward, did not fill up the stat sheet, went 1 for 3 today and didn't shoot a 3. But because when he's in the corner, you've got to stay closer to him. You've got to stay out there more. You've got to shade away from the paint. It makes everything worth it. And I do believe, as a guy who we've always seen perform well offensively in his career, he'll eventually swing back around offensively. And then defensively, he's filling gaps very well. He's rotating very well. And I think he's playing good enough to be on the floor because of how he provides spacing just by standing there in the corner and getting out of the way for other players to go take over. I also want to talk Cason Wallace. Like, Cason Wallace has some of the most poise you're going to find from a rookie. 5 points, 2 boards, an assist, 1 for 1 from 3. It was a gotta-have-it 3, sidestep contested. He knocks it down. His only miss was cleaned up by Chet Holmgren on a putback. And he just locks in defensively and does everything the right way on that end of the floor and just is a pest in 17 minutes defensively. Cason Wallace is awesome, and he deserves a lot of credit, and I think that he should deserve some more playing time today. I'm interested to see how the rotation goes against the Lakers. Second night of a back-to-back, you want to kind of manage minutes. What does that look like, especially as the Thunder, again, are fighting to keep that top seed in the West. They're fighting to keep that top spot in a very, very, very tough Western Conference. But depth is a huge plus for OKC. Their resiliency and ability to stay calm is a huge plus for OKC. Having the MVP is a huge plus for OKC. And having a team that when they're locked in playing their best basketball defensively, not only can you not score on them, you're going to have turnovers that present them easy scoring chances on the other end. And throughout this season, they handled that 30-0 Mavs run. They handled this 6-8 run from Phoenix. They've been able to make the adjustments in game, to make the adjustments in the long game of like the season. Look how they've progressed this season from the start of the year. And they have the right coach. They have the MVP in a star-driven league. They have enough depth. Like they have the ability to mismatch and pull out whatever strategies they need to, and you'll have the personnel to match up with a lot of the different looks you can get in the postseason. It's going to be very fun to see. We're going to recap it all tonight after that Lakers game late night, but we're going to do it again against LA. And until then, be good and be good to one another.